Hello creative friends, this is Joy. So today I decided to draw a lion on this watercolor background. And this is another watercolor background that I created a while ago, so I will put a link to that in the video description if you're interested in seeing that, and a link to the portfolio that I created for putting these drawings in that I've been doing. So I decided to do a quick pencil sketch of this lion to get the proportions of him down and the placement of the eyes and the nose and the mouth on this watercolor background. So you can't really see it really well in the video, but you'll see it here in a minute. So after I get the drawing of the lion down and the proportions and correct, then I just grab my pen and start going over the pencil drawings to trace in this lion on my watercolor background here. And I also am using the pen just to add in some shading as well on the lion, and some of the fur on his mane. And he has this really huge, beautiful mane. And I don't know if I captured that very well in my drawing or, picture of this lion. But yeah, the reference photo I was looking at, the lion had this gorgeous, like, mane. I've never seen a mane quite like it on a lion before, but it was really pretty. So I was trying to capture that in my drawing, and I don't know if I did. And that picture, the reference photo I was using, was actually the whole body of the lion laying down, like, I guess it was a picture taken in a safari or something. But I just decided just to draw the head instead of the whole thing. And again, I'm just using my pen to add in like the black areas, the darker areas, and a little bit of shading. And then I grabbed my watercolor pens and decided to start adding color to him. And I start off with the lightest color because I wanted to, obviously do some variation in this, so it's just not like one flat color. So I start off with the lightest yellow color because he seemed to have some lighter yellowy kind of areas. And then I switch to a color that's a little bit darker to add in like some of the shadowing and other areas in this lion and in the fur or the mane. And then I continue to use darker and darker colors in areas on this lion. And there goes my clock, as always. And it's like right over my head, so I apologize for the clock. Always seems to want to go off when I'm trying to do recordings. So again, like I said, I just continue using darker and darker colors and trying to reserve areas where I want it to be highlighted. And here, that color wasn't blending as well on his face, so I grabbed the next lightest color and kind of tried to blend that in better. It was, I don't know, to me looking a little too splotchy, I guess. And again, just continuing to use this brown color to continue to add to the lions, to the mane, and the back part of the mane there was really dark, and so I didn't bother going over that too much because I knew that once I add the darker color in, it was going to cover up most of whatever I put down there. So that's why the back part of it I'm kind of leaving there a little bit. But I do go back over it and try to add a little bit of more highlighting to it. Here you'll see towards the end to give it a little bit more variety. But yeah, for the most part, this whole back part of the mane is just one very dark area. So using the reference photo for reference, but not matching it exactly, but trying to, just get some of the shadow areas and highlight areas, in the same general area, I guess you could say. And so I'm continuing to add to this lion in different shades to, again, just to give some variety in him. And then I pick up my Signo white gel pen to add in highlights. And it just seemed like when I was putting it on, it was very white, too white. And so I was using my fingers to smudge it out so it wasn't so white and bright. And so, yeah, that's what I'm doing here, just to tone it down a bit because it was just so strong when I was first putting it on, stronger than I wanted it to be. And that was helping to, kind of get it to where it wasn't so strong. And I'm continuing to add the white in other areas where there's highlight and to add some variety to his mane. And so that's what I'm doing here. And some highlights to his ear. And that shadow on his forehead, it's like, you'll see here towards the end, I ended up finishing him, signing it, dating it, all that, and thinking, I like it, it looks good, I'm happy with it. But then when I started putting the video together, I'm looking at it on the screen here, and I'm like, man, that shadow on his forehead is really dark. It makes it look like, his forehead's like cut in half or whatever. It's just really, yeah, too much. And so towards the end, I added on additional footage, and you can watch it or not, of where I attempted, and I say attempted because I kind of went about it not the right way, but I attempted to lighten that area so it looked more like a shadow and less like a big dip or whatever in his face. But yeah, I actually am used to working in acrylics. I've worked with acrylics in, paintings, art drawings for years. And so I'm really familiar with that. Watercolors is a new medium for me. It's something that, I've been wanting to try and work with more, but just haven't. And so I decided that, yep, I want to get some watercolors and I want to start trying to do more watercolor, you know, drawings and paintings and stuff. And so I attempted to fix that like I would if I was using acrylic paints. So I grabbed my acrylic paint and put it on his forehead, but it was not exactly a disaster, but pretty darn close to disastrous. And you'll see at the end if you decide to watch that piece of it. And afterwards, I was like, man, that should have not been that complicated to lighten that area. And then it dawned on me that, duh, you're working with watercolors. And simply all I needed to do was take some water and a damp brush and try to lift some of that color off. And that might have helped, and you know, saved me a lot of heartache. So that was the painting. As you saw, I signed it and dated it. And then here is where I went back and I used acrylic paint over the top to try to lighten this. But then when I came back over it with watercolor, guess what? It just does not want to, um, it doesn't blend in. I mean, it doesn't look too bad, I guess, looking at it now, but when I was doing it, no matter how many times I went over it, it was like very gray. You know, the watercolor just kind of like sunk into it and it was very gray. And it just wasn't quite blending in. And then, of course, the paper started to peel because it was getting so wet and I was scrubbing it so much. So I had to dry it a little bit. And then I decided, well, let me put a little bit more white paint and try to, on the forehead and try to bring it down and maybe I could get it to blend in more. And that just created a bigger kind of splotchy area on his forehead. And I'm trying to get it to blend in and it's not blending in. And so, yeah, I was back and forth with this and not happy. So, anyway, yeah, I decided to do more of a shadow around his face and bring it into that shadow area. And then I'm using my white pen to add more white to the top of his head and trying to go over that with more watercolor. And so, yeah, I went back and forth quite a bit with trying to get it to, you know, see, when I first go over it, oh, it looks good. But then as soon as the watercolor sinks in, it has this big splotchy gray area that was not very happy with. But in the end, I ended up deciding, you know what, it is what it is. I'm just going to leave it, and lesson learned. Next time when you're working with watercolors, keep in mind that you can simply wet it and use a paper towel to try to lift some of the color if you're not happy and want to lighten it. So, yeah, it was starting to turn out to be one of my favorites and then ended up being not so much one of my favorites in the end. But, it is what it is. So that's pretty much the drawing of this lion that I did. I really appreciate you stopping by and watching my video. If you like the video, you can give me a thumbs up or not down. You know how that works. You can leave a comment if you'd like to leave a comment saying, next time, do better. Or you can subscribe to my channel if you'd like to see more of my videos. So I appreciate you stopping by and watching. And as I continue to try to fix this, we will talk to you guys again soon, hopefully. Talk to you later. Have a good day. Bye bye.